Good people, give ear to me story. It happens we come here by chance. 5 heroes I've brought, blithe and bonny, intending to give you a dance. Now Newcastle is our habitation, the place we're all born and bred, and there's no finer lads in the nation, and none are more gallantly led.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Dirt of Dirts traditional chat. I'm Eilidh Smith and I'll be leading a chat with some rapper experts who have been in the tradition for a long time and some of them for a little less long. Mossy Christian.
My name is Mossy Christian. I'm a folk musician, dancer and singer from Lincolnshire, and I've danced with various different teams over the years, including Maltby, North Star, the Gotham Ploughstops and Flamborough.
Simon Vaughan is next.
Good evening. Yes, Simon Vaughan from Thrales, everyone's least favourite team, and I've been involved with Thrales for about 11 years now, and I've been privileged to be on the DERT steering committee, and I've been privileged to go to DART and judge there. I love the Beadnell, what can I say?
And a man that needs no introduction, Mr. Phil Heaton.
Hello, I'm Phil Heaton. I was involved with Merton, the original Merton team, a long time ago. And then I saw the light and joined Sallyport in 1969. I've been dancing ever since. I started DERT.
And finally, Alice Coady.
Thanks, Eilidh. My name's Alice Coady. I am a rather inactive member of both Whip the Cat and Four Corner Sword. I've been a judge of both the main competition and the traditional competition at DERT in the past, and probably my proudest achievement in life, not just in rapper, was winning the Steve Maris, the Tysack and the Premier trophies at DERT in Sheffield in 2018.
So what does tradition mean to you? Phil, let's start with you, as you've literally written the book on it.
Right, well, tradition is the dance passed down, or the dance as we model it. We model ourselves on these days. And so the dance is a continuation.
Right, so Mossy, as probably one of the newer members of the rapper community, what does tradition mean to you?
Well, tradition is one of those famously indefinable things. I think tradition is something that is still evolving. That's an important thing. It has great heritage, but if it ceases to evolve, it becomes a ritual and no longer a tradition.
Alice, how about you?
Well, obviously, rapper itself is a traditional form of dance in that it's not a modern dance. But within that style itself, we have the traditional dances, the traditional notated dances of Northumberland and County Durham. I think we're doing both, keeping the traditional dances alive by performing them and researching them, whilst also evolving the modern and contemporary style of rapper. And it's important to understand and appreciate where the dance has come from and how far it has developed and changed to date.
And finally, Simon, what's your point of view?
It's a tricky one because, as Mossy said, it's something that is very difficult to define. And as someone far cleverer than I once put it, tradition is tending the flame, not tending the ashes. I don't know, it's a tricky one because you could always say that the traditional dances are traditional, but they weren't traditional when they were dancing them. They were just the dancers, they did them. So I think it's a sort of value judgment we give to a certain set of the dancers that we perform in the sword dance community, and how much we either venerate them or are inspired by them.
Why should every team learn a traditional dance? Alice?
I think that the more rapper evolves, we're edging further and further away from its traditional roots. And I think it's vital that we don't lose sight of where this dance has come from. I think there's lots of reasons why teams should learn a traditional dance. It's a great addition to any repertoire, but also it's important to understand where the figures that we do now and perhaps take for granted, where they've come from in the first place. So I think learning a traditional dance is a great way to appreciate and understand the rapper we do now has come from.
Absolutely. And Simon, Thrales have really made an impact on the traditional scene. Why do you think people should learn a traditional dance?
Why do I think we should learn traditional dances? I think because they are fundamentally interesting and exciting. And I think, to pick up what Alice just said, we do so many evolved dances that we've taken, for figures from all the teams that have evolved over the years, and we dance really fast and we do lots of acrobatics and we do all those sort of things. But it's really interesting to go back to, shall we say, the tradition, and to do the slower dances, the more obscure dances as well, things that are not necessarily as eye-catching as some of the other dances that are performed by teams day to day. Beadle, for example, is the dance that Thrales have a lot of love and effort into. And it's everything an evolved rapper dance is not. It's slow. There's no acrobatics. There are no spins as such. You go around in a circle a lot, but there are no sort of spins. And I think a bit like driving, when they say that you it's easy to drive fast, but it's hard to drive slow. I think there's something precise about particularly the Beadle and some of the other dances as well, but there's a precision involved to it because of its simplicity, or its perceived simplicity, that you have to be more precise in order to get away with it, because there's less room to hide behind all the whiz-bang stuff. You've got to get the figures right, you've got to get the stepping right, and it's just about precision. And they're very, very beautiful, and I think when done well, they're really quite hypnotic. So I think every team should have at least one so-called trad dance under their belts.
And Mossy, what are your feelings?
I started out with a traditional dance. We danced New Biggin. On a personal level, rather than on a team level, it does give you a good grounding in pretty much all the basics of the figures, or the rudimentary forms of other figures are within those traditional dances. What Sharp did was he basically took a photograph of what was happening at that precise moment in time, that itself was the result of a tradition of an unknown length of time. But if you do start, either as an individual starting out or as a team in their infancy, to learn a traditional dance, you will find that as you develop as a dancer, or as a team develops together as a group, if they've started out by learning a traditional dance, as the tradition itself has evolved from a traditional dance to a modern dance, it's a good place to start as a dancer or as a team, to start with one of those traditional dances and then move through time chronologically almost to the more recent dancers and more innovative figures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we forget is that a lot of us will have started out with learning a traditional dance. When you get to teach a workshop, you instantly go back to New Biggin because it is the easiest dance to teach beginners, and it's a really solid foundation for your rapper career. What do you think, Phil?
I think the New Biggin thing is a bit of a red herring, because it's only there because the only publication from EFDSS, it could easily have been Merton. I mean, that would have been nice if somebody had published Merton. We would have all been dancing differently, wouldn't we? So, but yes, New Biggin's good and bland, but I think teams should maybe not always learn a traditional dance, but they should certainly look at the traditional dances. There's tons and tons of stuff in the traditional dances that nobody does. Some people have looked, but a lot of people have ignored it because they sideline the tradition and say, oh, well, we don't want to do that. But a lot of them should. So I think a rapper dance has elements that the tradition shows us, like some speed, some slow, some different stepping, some different swords, for instance. To get back to your original proposition, yes, the team should learn a different dance, a traditional dance.
I think if I could add on the end there, Phil, this little booklet is responsible for so much for the modern history of rapper and for the modern history of longsword. The two dances published here are the New Biggin rapper dance and the North Skelton sword dance. And now, outside of the 4 or 5 traditional longsword teams, North Skelton is by far the most widely known dance, if not the only known dance. And that all really comes back to this one little book. So it does show what a titanic impact such a little pamphlet that EFTIS decided to publish once can have on the entire future of a tradition.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Tradition is it's a perilous thing as well as an ancient thing.
Yeah, well, you know, looking for developments, which is what we're all talking about, going back to the original, to the roots, is good because you can develop your own from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as part of Sallyport, we've taken a lot of steps to research Newbiggin a lot. And I think it's really important to have that one foot for all teams in the tradition and remind yourselves, even if you don't dance it out. I mean, a lot of my created figures have come from traditional dancers. You know, the scringe from Merton is a beautiful, beautiful figure and can be adapted so easily into a more modern, quick, fiery figure. So we've touched on the fact that Rapper is an evolving tradition, and we've got a few teams who are now basically really old, not in age dances, but in long-standing creation. So the likes of Kingsman and Stone Monkey, should we now consider the Stone Monkey dance or the Kingsman dance or maybe even the Thrales dance as traditional?
There's a theory within folk song that a formula to try and work out what is traditional and what isn't, and that's a song is traditional if you learnt it from somebody who learnt it from somebody else. So by that logic, a lot of dancers that I know could be considered traditional, whereas those exact same dancers to somebody like Phil, who got them from the manuscript, would not be traditional because he got them from the manuscript, but I got it from somebody who got it from somebody who got it from Phil. So I'm not sure that entirely holds true, certainly when dancers are being discussed. There is a further consideration for modern dancers. I think it is perfectly possible to say that with the exception of a few very recent dancers, all rapper dancers are traditional. Now, Thrales probably wouldn't want a different team coming along and dancing the Thrales dance at DERT. I might be wrong, but I imagine that they probably wouldn't do.
Simon, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm sure Thrales would be absolutely delighted if another team turned up and did the anchor for us. We wouldn't have to. We'd just sit in the pub. That's a really interesting question, actually. What would we do if they turned up doing our dance? I've no idea. I don't know if we'd consider ourselves to have such ownership, you know, because it's the folk community. If someone were to be kind enough to Thrales to decide that a dance that's over 25 years old was traditional enough for them, I think we'd pat them on the back and say, best of British, you know, crack on. But again, you know, I think the interesting idea about what is traditional, when does something become traditional? I mean, 25 years sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? I mean, I think that's what they use for certain measures of for insurance, or 50 years for sort of classic cars or something. But I think the other question is, of course, should it be about live teams that are still functioning and a going concern, or should it be about extinct teams? I mean, I know one team that I tried to approach to get the notation for their dancers, and the team were very reluctant to let me have them. They just said, no, thank you. They're no longer dancing, they're no longer functioning. And I just said, you know, your dancers were great, they should be collected and they should be preserved. And they said they were our dancers, we don't want them being done by other people. And when we're dead and gone, those dancers die with us. And I thought that was a really interesting point of view. And it was then it occurred to me, this was a couple of years ago when I had this conversation, that, you know, what would the old lads from the Northeast think about us doing their dances like this? Because, you know, those old imperialists who went up and copied all their notation down, I don't know what they thought they were going to do with it. You know, the idea that we're still doing it several hundred years later is crazy. So I don't know. I think it depends upon what you want to get out of it. Whether you're looking at doing dances because they're worth doing, or whether you wanted to keep the tradition going, or writing everybody's dances down, or how do you decide whose dances are good and worthy of notating? The old teams were jealously guarded their notation, and they jealously guarded it to the point of they'd pay, have people pay for the odd figure. So I don't know, it's a really difficult question, and one I don't think we're going to answer, unfortunately, anytime soon, because I think we need something like a rapper constitutional court to come to the conclusion you're looking for.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, if you look at High Spen, who are a living traditional team, my view is that it has been really personally guarded by Ricky for so long, and it's only recently they didn't have enough dancers to practice. And that was the kind of realization when, oh, maybe we need to start teaching it to other teams, but it would be Ricky who taught it. So Phil, yeah, what would you now consider as tradition?
I would love teams to dance thrills. I'd love to see somebody else dance thrills. I don't know. It's really interesting. A couple of anecdotes talking about intellectual property and copyright. Royal Ersden, we learnt from Dave Pearson, we learnt the bulldog, which we know that Royal Ersden stole in 1955. And there was a fight in the dressing room at the City Hall because Spen got 93, thought had won. Ersden got 94 and did win. And they said, you stole our bloody figure. And there was a scrap. And the melodeon was damaged. And going back to Dave Pearson from Ersden, he refused to come and teach us. But we danced some figures from Ersden with Snark and with the monkeys. And when he saw them, I said, well, what do you think? And he said, that's very good. He said, it looks like the stone monkeys dancing. And I said, well, what about your figures? No, they're not our figures. That's not our dance. Only us can dance for Ersden. Right, now what about the future? I actually think there should be perhaps a cut-off point, 50 years. The Kingsmen dance could be danced. In a few years, monkeys maybe, and then swans after that. If there's such a distinctive dance, there aren't that many dances that are absolutely distinctive, apart from Simon's Anchor, our number one dance. Black Swan don't do their number one dance anymore. And Kingsmen, they keep telling us they've got 39 figures to choose from. So what do you do about that?
I think that's the big point, is there aren't that many dancers that are hugely different, but I think that's because most teams have learnt either the Kingsman or the Stone Monkey dance along the way, and that's been their basis. The dances they've created have evolved from the Kingsman and Monkey dancers.
Well, I was kind of going to say something similar to what you were just saying there, actually. But I think the Kingsmen should have a good shout at being regarded as traditional, seeing as they were regarded as traditional at DERT up until the format changed in 2003. And obviously their location and the length of time they've been running should sort of put them in that category, really. I mean, they've been dancing at the same time as some of the teams we regard as traditional, but yet we don't regard the Kingsmen as traditional. I think they'd have a really good case and probably should be regarded as traditional, because it's not like other contemporary rapper dances. In the same way Simon was talking about Thrale's unique style, you could say the same about the Kingsmen. You'd know it was the Kingsmen, whatever they were wearing. If it was tights and leopard print tails, you'd always know it was them, because it's their style is so unique. And you can also tell when a team is dancing in their style. But I'd also say the Stone Monkey number one dance should have a shout as well. I mean, Mossy was talking about how would Thrale's feel if a team went to DERT and danced their dance, but Black Swan went to DERT in 2001 and danced the Stone Monkey dance at DERT. So that happened. And I think if a team has gone to DERT and danced your dance, then you've probably got a good case of being regarded as traditional. I would also say that the Stone Monkey are probably the orchestrators of the contemporary rapper scene. They changed the face of rapper, and then Black Swan subsequently. But to be honest, Black Swan's dance, the template is the Stone Monkey number one dance. Similar figures fall into the same parts of the dance as they do in the Stone Monkey dance. It's literally based on it. And I think probably the Stone Monkey dance is the most danced non-traditional dance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because You know, I've witnessed it many times where monkeys have been short of a dancer, and there has been many people in this in the pub who can just step in and dance.
I just add one more thing. I can't remember who said it earlier about, are we talking about teams currently in existence, or, you know, now, was it you, Simon?
Yeah.
You know, the teams are now defunct. There's a lot of really interesting, not long folded sides that I'm not sure they have quite the same case as the Kingsman's repertoire or the Stone Monkey #1 dance, but teams like East Saxon, Hoddesdon Crownsman, Short Circuit.
Yeah.
But then I suppose you could argue that they're sort of in the mould of, they dance in the mould of High Spen.
Thank you everybody for joining us, watching this absolutely enthralling traditional chat, and thanks to Mossy, Simon, Phil and Alice for joining me and answering all these interesting interwoven questions. Hopefully see you all soon in real life.